How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about Creepshow, the TV series. Today we have Season 2, Episode 1. This is Model Kid / Public Television of the Dead. Both these segments were directed by Greg Nicotero, the show's creator, and were written by John Esposito and Rob Schrab. And as far as guest stars, today we actually have Ted Raimi is in this episode. That is really good. I love all the little, crossovers you get. The first season we had, Tobin Bell, Adrienne Barbeau, just in the first episode, Jeffrey Combs. So it's cool to see them bringing over really cool horror icons there, and Ted Raimi's also fun, but he does bring something cool to the table. We'll get to that, what he's doing in a minute, literally bringing something to the table. But anyway, I believe this is from 2020. You see, this came out a fair bit ago on Shudder streaming service. It's a Shudder original show, but after about a year and around Halloween time, Halloween's closer than you think, they actually all play on AMC, and as they play on AMC, I'm going to be reviewing them one by one, so I'm going to review every episode of Season 2, and at the end of the video, there'll be a playlist. I've reviewed every episode of Season 1, so if you want to see my thoughts on those, you can see those there. But anyway, let's go ahead and talk a bit about the thoughts. I knew Season 2 was coming up. Season 1 I thought was pretty good. There were some hits and some misses, but overall I thought the show was pretty good. Now Season 2 is important because you have to prove that the first season wasn't just a fluke. You have to prove that you can do it again. And I was sitting down, ready to watch the new season, and the first one comes on, and it's good enough, it's fine. But the first segment, Model Kid, is an incredibly standard segment, It's not too bad, but you got the idea of where this story was going pretty much from the very beginning. There were a few cool things about it, but it wasn't super original, So I saw the first segment and I thought, this is okay. If they were all like that, I'd still watch it, but I wouldn't be as excited for it. It was fine, but nothing that blew me out of the water. Then we got to the second story. The first story was okay, but the second story, that blew me away. Public Television of the Dead is actually, came out of nowhere, the Creepshow Evil Dead crossover. Yeah, that is so unexpected and crazy. That also explains why Ted Raimi's in it. But yeah, you get public television people opening the Necronomicon, and plus, I didn't realize, I watched a ton of public television growing up, but I didn't really think too much about it later on in life, and then they do this episode, I'm like, oh, I recognize that, I remember that, and to cross over that old fond memory with an unexpected Evil Dead side story? That was crazy. Now, I do want to say this is an Evil Dead side story. It's directed by Greg Nicotero, not Sam Raimi, and Bruce Campbell doesn't show up in this. I was kind of hoping he'd at least get a little cameo, but we still do have Ted. It's very much a side piece to the main series. It's not, as important as a new movie. It's by no means Evil Dead 4, but to get to see the world of Evil Dead again, apropos of nothing, that was really cool. Before I just ramble too much about that, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the stories. I'm going to go into the plots. I'm not going to do any major spoilers, but I do want to say my piece on a few plot points and make sure you guys have a basic understanding as to what the stories are about. So we open up on Model Kid. Model Kid, you get to see an old black and white movie, The Gilman, aka the creature from the Black Lagoon, versus the Mummy. And the two of them fight in this old-timey movie, which is pretty cool. The Gilman and the Mummy never crossed over in the original Universal timeline. They both met Abbott and Costello, albeit the Gilman only met him on the Colgate Comedy Hour. But it's cool to see two of the monsters that never really got to meet the other ones sort of clash and fight with each other. So a cool old-timey Universal movie, and the two are fighting. It's, for some reason, has no sound. I know it's an old movie, but most of the classic Universal monsters did have sound. The only soundless one I can think of off the top of my head is the original Phantom of the Opera, but whatever, creative license, right? But anyway, the two fight when all of a sudden they hear a voice calling from the sky, a woman's voice, big booming in through the air, and then the camera pulls back and you find that these aren't the real monsters. It's a kid playing with his two monster model kits. You see, way back when, monster model kits used to be really popular, especially for the Universal monsters. You get the model, you put it together, it'd be this little scene, a creature in the area around him. And you do get to see, you pan out and you see this kid's room. He's really big into classic monsters. Lots of cool memorabilia, some of it's real, some of it's invented for the show. And you get to see all his monsters, including a few little Easter eggs. The Scarecrow, one of the coolest creatures from Season 1, he's a little model in this kid's room. As well as the Creepshow Ghoul is there as a model in this kid's room, and he actually reads Creepshow comics. You know, you have a kid like this, he's gonna be reading the old-timey comics of the day, so yeah, Creepshow would have been one of them in this world where it was a real comic, you know, so cool to see the sort of meta references in it. But anyway, this kid's a big nerd, his mom comes up, and his mom really loves him, his mom's a good person, but the thing is, she's dying of cancer. So the mom's dying, it's all sad, and she says, come down to dinner, your Uncle Kevin is coming over. Well, that's not necessarily the best thing. You see, the Uncle Kevin is married to the mom's sister, and he's not very understanding of other people. He doesn't understand why the kid likes monsters so much, and the mom tries to defend him and support him, like, hey, it's what he likes, it's fine, you know, I like it too, and he's like, a man should be a man, he should be into sports, you know, and stuff like that. But, of course, this is a case of, we very much know where this story's going. The mom dies, and the kid is left with his uncle and his aunt, and his life is not very good. They had moved in shortly before the death, partially because the mom needed help, and also because the uncle lost his job, and that's going to be one of those things that's playing in the back of his head, is that he doesn't have a job, and that's going to make him even angrier than usual. So he gets in a big fight with the kid, he smashes up his models, he tries to throw them away, and it also implies that, pretty clearly says that he's being abusive to his wife as well, so he's not a very good guy. But one day, the kid opens up the Creepshow magazine and sees an ad for, let's just say, a very special model, and he is going to be able to use this to get his revenge. So this is a case of a story that, it's fine. I really did like seeing the Universal monsters referenced. I like the opening, and it does build to a pretty crazy climax when this kid finally gets his special model and he's able to get revenge. That's pretty cool. I just wish that the ending segment was much longer. We kind of truncated the first part, because the first part, you get the abusive uncle. Bad guy, no question, and some people, especially back in the day, did have to live with people like this, and it's bad, but his character is pretty expected. There's no super twist or turns or unique angles on this guy. He's a character we've seen before. Again, not a terribly bad version of this character, but it's really hard to portray jerks in entertainment without you just going, here's the jerk guy again, you know? So he's super expected, and you know this is going to build up to the kid getting his revenge somehow. You don't know how, but you know he's going to eventually get his revenge, and you know from the title it's going to have something to do with the models. Now, when he does get his revenge, it's pretty crazy and cool, and I just wish that they had found some way to make this sequence go on longer, like maybe found ways where the uncle could fight back a little bit, and he would have to maybe strategize, and you could stretch out this scene, because this is the wacky, crazy, creep show, tear up the house lunacy that I like, and I really wish this part was longer in the slower, emotional stuff that we all know where it's going. Like, we all know where it's going. I don't really care about this part, but when it gets there, that's fun. It's just, the first half is incredibly standard. One thing, though, I did like is the kid's name is Joe. I'm guessing that has to be an Easter egg to Stephen King's son, Joe Hill, who played the kid in his room that was a fan of monsters in the original movie. Like, it's gotta be a nod to him, right? He's also, Joe Hill did write for the show as well, so that's a pretty cool Easter egg. But anyway, all that aside, that's the first story. It's fine. The second story, that's what we all show up for. That's the big, crazy one. Public television of the dead, the Evil Dead story. That's cool. So basically, we're at this Publix television studio. There are a few different stages running a few different shows, and we first meet this lady who does children's reading time with her little puppet there. And when the cameras turn off, you find that this lady is a huge jerk as well, but her show is the most popular, and she wants a better time slot. Unfortunately, to move her show to the better time slot, they have to cancel a Bob Ross-like show. Originally it was The Joy of Painting, but in this show it's The Love of Painting or something like that. So they have to cancel Bob Ross's show, and after the first lady was revealed to secretly be a jerk, it was a pleasant surprise that they kept Bob Ross as a nice guy. They cancel his show, and he's like, oh, now that's just too bad. And he tells the camera, he's like, now, sadly, this is going to be our last show, but I have to have faith that the Lord has a bigger plan for me, and I hope to see you guys again sometime. You know, it's to keep this guy a legitimately nice guy. He's very much Bob Ross, including a few little details that, you know, like he'll, you know, take the brush and clean it, he'll beat the devil out of it. And he's got the voice, and he's got the afro. It's a very good Bob Ross, and he's a cool character. So he's there recording his last episode. His are all pre-recorded. Meanwhile, in another room, they're doing an Antiques Roadshow-like show. Antiques Roadshow, basically people bring them old stuff they found in their house, antiques, and they appraise them. So there's this guy there, a professor, and his first guest is Ted Raimi, playing Ted Raimi as himself, you know? And Ted Raimi brings in the Necronomicon, and he goes, yeah, we just kind of had this in our cellar, we never did anything with it, and I almost threw it away several times, but I thought I'd bring it to you to appraise. And it's legitimately the Necronomicon. It looks a little bit different. They had to make the prop themselves for the show, so the face is a little different. The biggest difference is this one has a lock on it, so that's just a little thing. I'm not really sure where this story takes place in the Evil Dead multiverse, but it is legitimately the Necronomicon, even going down to reference the Sumerian text and reference Kandar and stuff. So it's legitimately the Necronomicon. Now, the problem is they open it up and the professor goes, why, I can read this text, and he starts to read the text out loud, which causes people at the television station to get possessed. And what the Deadites want to do is they want to air a special episode of that children's reading show, but this time they're going to read from the Necronomicon instead of a children's book and cause people all over the world to turn into Deadites. That's a great way to incorporate the theme of the episode with the Evil Dead and a legitimate big threat that you have to stop. So it's a really cool idea. There are a few other cool public television things where they're like, you have to pledge to us, but rather than pledging money, they want you to pledge your soul, you know? So there's some cool stuff, but of course, Bob Ross finds out about it and he has to stop them. And they do play off a fun real-life fact from Bob Ross's life is Bob Ross was formerly in the Army, and he wanted to, after the Army, live a peaceful life, which is where you get the Bob Ross we all know. But they take this fact and they use it to say, like, he's a nice guy who wants to paint his happy little trees, but he was formerly in the Army and he knows how to fight and defend himself. So the idea of Bob Ross being a tough guy and being able to fight demons, that's crazy, but somehow plausible. And you get to see scenes where, like, Bob Ross picks up a thing of turpentine, spits it out into a lighter, and sets Deadites on fire. That's crazy. And overall, this was fun. You do get to see lots of Evil Dead stuff. The Necronomicon is there. When people get possessed, they turn into Deadites with spot-on makeup jobs. They scream, they float, they say, you know, the Deadite things. And it's legitimately Evil Dead stuff, which is great. You know, you get the camera at one point flowing through the air, the camera monster. It's cool Evil Dead stuff. Now, this isn't legitimately directed by Sam Raimi. It would have been cool if they got him to show it, but he's busy. He's a big producer now. He's making Doctor Strange. It would have been cool if he had showed up, but he didn't. And like I said earlier, there's no Bruce Campbell, so this isn't grade A movie material Evil Dead. But as an Evil Dead side story, as a random Creepshow TV episode, this is fun, and I really did like it. And hey, surprise me with Evil Dead any day of the week. I've seen all the movies, I've seen all the TV shows, and to get a bonus Evil Dead just showing up out of the blue, that's great. And it gets me thinking, like, what other movies are going to cross over with Creepshow? I mean, you do Evil Dead, I can totally see them doing Reanimator, especially since they've already had Jeffrey Combs on the show. But how many other movies could you do? You could do a Return of the Living Dead. You could do a sequel to Trick or Treat, Another Adventure with Sam. Like, if you open the doors to a Creepshow crossover thing, you could have so many fun mini side stories with so many cool horror properties, and this just leaves me super, super excited, and I really do love it. Always great to see this stuff. I didn't think Bob Ross fighting Deadites would work, but it's super true to who Bob Ross was, and super true to what the Evil Dead is. And to see them cross over, and yeah, it's two things that I wouldn't think would go well, but surprisingly work pretty well, and it's really fun, and I really do like it. You know, crazy little things like the puppet coming to life. It's cool, and I can't recommend this enough to Evil Dead fans. A fun bonus episode that just came out of nowhere. So that's super cool. Still have to keep waiting for Evil Dead 4 though, but hey, that's fun. But anyway, I definitely recommend this episode. The first one is kind of standard. It's cool to see the Universal monsters. It's cool to see the nerdy stuff. And it's cool to see all the Easter eggs and fun stuff. But overall, you know where it's going. And I wish the first segment had more time for the climax. But the second segment, Public Television of the Dead, you have to check this story out. More Evil Dead. That is great. And I can't wait to watch the rest of this season. I'll be back pretty soon with episode 2, and I plan on reviewing all of them. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You're really helping the channel out. I'll put a relevant playlist on the bottom. If you want to see more, you can click there and see more. it should be my Creepshow playlist. I've reviewed every episode from Season 1, so if you want to see those, you can click there and see those. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.